A salary is a form of periodic payment from an employer to an employee, which may be specified in an employment contract. It is contrasted with piece wages, where each job, hour or other unit is paid separately, rather than on a periodic basis. From the point of view of running a business, salary can also be viewed as the cost of acquiring and retaining human resources for running operations, and is then termed personnel expense or salary expense. In accounting, salaries are recorded in payroll accounts. Salary is a fixed amount of money or compensation paid to an employee by an employer in return for work performed. Salary is commonly paid in fixed intervals, for example, monthly payments of 1/12 of the annual salary. Salary is typically determined by comparing market pay rates for people performing similar work in similar industries in the same region. Salary is also determined by leveling the pay rates and salary ranges established by an individual employer. Salary is also affected by the number of people available to perform the specific job in the employer's employment locale. History. First paid salary. While there is no first pay stub for the first work for pay exchange, the first salaried work would have required a society advanced enough to have a barter system which allowed for the even exchange of goods or services between tradesmen. More significantly, it presupposes the existence of organized employers, perhaps a government or a religious body, that would facilitate work for hire exchanges on the regular enough basis to constitute salaried work. From this, most infer that the first salary would have been paid in a village or city during the Neolithic Revolution, sometime between 10,000 BCE and 6,000 BCE. A cuneiform inscribed clay tablet dated about 3100 BCE provides a record of the daily beer rations for workers in Mesopotamia. The beer is represented by an upright jar with a pointed base. The symbol for rations is a human head eating from a bowl. Round and semicircular impressions represent the measurements. By the time of the Hebrew Book of Ezra, salt from a person was synonymous with drawing sustenance, taking pay, or being in that person's service. At that time, salt production was strictly controlled by the monarchy or ruling elite. Depending on the translation of Ezra chapter 4 verse 14, the servants of King Artaxerxes I of Persia explain their loyalty variously as because we are salted with the salt of the palace, or because we have maintenance from the king, or because we are responsible to the king. Salarium. Similarly, the Latin words salarium linked employment, salt, and soldiers, but the exact link is not very clear. The soldier's pay was originally salt and the word salary derives from it. More modern sources maintain instead that although Roman soldiers were typically paid in coin, the word salarium is derived from the word sal because at some point a soldier's salary may have been an allowance for the purchase of salt or the price of having soldiers conquer salt supplies and guard the salt roads that led to Rome. Some people even claim that the word soldier itself comes from the Latin saldare, but mainstream sources disagree, noting that the word soldier more likely derives from the gold solidus, with which soldiers were known to have been paid. Roman Empire and medieval and pre-industrial Europe. Regardless of the exact connection, the salarium paid to Roman soldiers has defined a form of work for hire ever since in the Western world, and gave rise to such expressions as being worth one's salt. Within the Roman Empire or medieval and pre-industrial Europe and its mercantile colonies, salaried employment appears to have been relatively rare and mostly limited to servants and higher status roles, especially in government service. Such roles were largely remunerated by the provision of lodging, food, and livery clothes. Many courtiers, such as valets de chambre, in late medieval courts were paid annual amounts, sometimes supplemented by large if unpredictable extra payments. At the other end of the social scale, those in many forms of employment either received no pay, as with slavery, serfdom, and indentured servitude, or received only a fraction of what was produced, as with sharecropping. Other common alternative models of work included self or cooperative employment, as with masters in artisan guilds, who often had salaried assistants, or corporate work and ownership, as with medieval universities and monasteries. Commercial Revolution. Even many of the jobs initially created by the Commercial Revolution in the years from 1520 to 1650 and later during industrialization in the 18th and 19th centuries would not have been salaried, but, to the extent they were paid as employees, probably paid an hourly or daily wage or paid per unit produced. Share in earnings in corporations of this time, such as the several East India Companies. Many managers would have been remunerated as owner shareholders. Such a remuneration scheme is still common today in accounting, investment, and law firm partnerships where the leading professionals are equity partners, and do not technically receive a salary, but rather make a periodic draw against their share of annual earnings. Second Industrial Revolution. From 1870 to 1930, the Second Industrial Revolution gave rise to the modern business corporation powered by railroads, electricity and the telegraph and telephone. New managerial jobs lent themselves to salaried employment, in part because the effort and output of office work were hard to measure hourly or piecewise, and in part because they did not necessarily draw remuneration from share ownership. As Japan rapidly industrialized in the 20th century, the idea of office work was novel enough that a new Japanese word was coined to describe those who performed it, as well as referencing their remuneration. 20th century. In the 20th century, the rise of the service economy made salaried employment even more common in developed countries, where the relative share of industrial production jobs declined, and the share of executive, administrative, computer, marketing, and creative jobs, all of which tended to be salaried, increased. Salary and other forms of payment. Today, the concept of a salary continues to evolve as a part of a system of the total compensation that employers offer to employees. Salary is coming to be seen as part of a total rewards system which includes bonuses, incentive pay, commissions, benefits and perquisites, and various other tools which help employers link rewards to an employee's measured performance. Compensation has evolved considerably. Consider the change from the days of and before the Industrial Evolution, when a job was held for a lifetime, to the fact that, from 1978 to 2008, individuals who aged from 18 to 44 held an average number of 11 jobs. Compensation has evolved, gradually moving away from fixed short-term immediate compensation towards fixed plus variable outcomes-based compensation. An increase in knowledge-based work has also led to pursuit of partner-like engagement.